my name is Kristine Goebel, and I am with a company suite. Today, we're here to talk about how managing admins can have challenging conversations with low performers. Here at a company suite, we believe that healthy workplaces equal healthy families, and we are on mission to restore workplaces and relationships. We do that through several different avenues, some more short term, some to long term. But today we're kind of in this space of a workshop and a teachable moment with you. Several of our clients, what they do is something called our OHD methodology, that is overall organizational health and development. And so as people who just love behavioral science, what we do is we actually teach you how to better communicate in your workplace while creating systems and processes at the same time. We know that a business doesn't change itself. It is the people who do, and we want you to stay connected. We've got freebies on our website. We have a YouTube channel with lots of professional development videos that are free for you, but please do connect on social media or just take a look at our website to see what we have to offer. Today, we're going to talk about 6 steps to having challenging conversations with low performers. What we're going to cover are first things first, how to be a coach, creating physical and psychological safety, making sure there's no surprises if possible. We want to teach you how to ask the right questions and also talk about correction and accountability. First things first. Anytime we're working with someone who is not performing to the level we want, we have to pause for a moment and think about the root cause. When we work with low performers, typically we see it in one of these 4 areas. It could be a situation where there are just unclear expectations. Perhaps there's no job description. Perhaps there's just not clear goals or objectives. It could just be that they don't have the same expectations of themselves that you have of them, or vice versa. They may have an expectation of you that you're not meeting. We also maybe see a situation where it's not been addressed yet. Maybe they've been a low performer for years, and you got tasked with having the conversation. The truth is if it's never been addressed before, you've got to give them time to fix it. What we also see is workplace disengagement. This would likely be happening if there's unclear expectations or something that's not been addressed, but it could also be something about the place that they're working in. Meaning it could be culture is off. It could be that their workstation doesn't have everything they need. It could be that they have a really tough customer that is just not a good fit, or they have to be taught how to maybe not take things personally or anything. It could be anything in there. It could also just be a major life event. Maybe they went through something recently and low performance wasn't really an issue, but we're starting to see it become an issue. But if we know something's happened, there also has to be a spot for compassion. And sometimes just acknowledging that we're in a place of low performance will help them get back on the right track. So how to be a coach? There's a difference between coaching and managing, and oftentimes these terms are used interchangeably, but there's some key differences. And so I just want to talk to you about that today. We want to always remember it's a relationship. It's not a transaction. If you want trust and you want things to move and you want high production and you want creativity, you need to be in a relationship, not a transaction. Managers, they tend to supervise, right? Just kind of look over everything. They're assigning tasks, they're monitoring, evaluating, they're looking at your productivity, right? Did you meet the mark? Did you do the 10 tax returns to completion this week that you were supposed to pump out? This is a very controlled environment. It tends to be a little bit more transactional. When we're a coach, we are engaging through questioning strategies. And that is very important because we want to always be developing trust with people. Once we've got trust, it makes it much easier for us to start to clarify those expectations. If I'm a low performer, I need to know what it is that you want from me so that I have a chance at being a top performer. I need to be empowered to do this because something is causing that low performance, and we have to figure out how to empower people. Coaching is done through a collaborative environment. It is certainly more asking than it is telling. And so it's more the coach seeking to understand the circumstance and then help bridge the gap so we can get that low performer from where they are to where we need them to go in order for them to stay on our team. The most critical piece here that we often miss is accountability. If we've left that conversation and they said they were going to do something, we have to make sure that they are moving forward to it actually being done. Let's move on to creating safety. Safety comes from a physical perspective and a psychological perspective. Physical safety looks like having this conversation in a private space. We want it to be on neutral ground. Oftentimes we'll hear people say, oh, I invited them into my office to have this tough conversation. And then we talk to the employee and they're saying, I felt like I got called to the principal's office, like I was just getting in trouble. Oftentimes, if we have a desk in between the two of us, we just created a barrier. We want to be on both, we both want to be on the same side of the desk, if you will. We want to be in a place like a classroom or a conference room or going for a walk, somewhere where it's just a peer-to-peer discussion, especially when the conversation isn't really all that positive, other than the fact that we want to give them an opportunity for growth. We also want to make sure that it's free from distraction. If you have your phone anywhere nearby, I am begging you to leave it in a different room. For the 15, 30 minutes or 1 hour that this conversation is going to be, that phone of yours needs to be away. The second the phone is part of the room or part of the experience, people automatically feel less important. If you really care and want to move this person from low performer to top performer, we need to keep that space physically free of any distraction. Even the thought that we could hear other people talking on the other side of the wall. We don't want that space. We want a space free from distraction. When we think about psychological safety, some ways you could do that is just make sure you're actively listening. And so what that means is if I ask a question, they give an answer, I'm either going to repeat back some of what I heard, to make sure I heard you right. I heard you say XYZ. Is that correct? Oh, yeah, it's correct. Okay, tell me more about that. You want to dig in 3, 4, 5 times deeper, okay? So that you actually know what they're talking about. We need to make sure that they also feel judgment free. And so if we're having this conversation about a low performer, chances are that we already have an opinion. We discussed it with other people in the organization, maybe that we are responsible to. We need to make sure that whomever that low performer is that we're engaging in conversation, that they know we're coming into it with an open mind to understand the circumstance better so that we can move them from where they are to where we need them to go. We also need to make sure we're setting clear expectations. We're going to talk about this in just a second, but we don't want to surprise them with anything. There needs to be clarity not only around what's expected of them, there also has to be clarity around this conversation. Just bombarding them or interrupting their day to have this conversation is not the right way to go. They need to know this conversation is coming. They need to know how to prepare. And like I said, we'll get into that in just a second. This is a biggie. I'm bolding it because it kind of goes across both physical and psychological safety as our nonverbal communication. We know that nonverbal communication makes up more than 90% of the overall communication that's happening, where like the words are just such a small percentage of it. Things like the tone of our voice and our body language can automatically throw a conversation into the wrong way. So for me, I tend to do things like I get a little crinkly brow when I'm thinking. For years, I would hear things from my team. They would say things like, gosh, Kristine, like, are you angry? You look so aggravated. And I'd be like, whoa, no, not at all. Like, I'm just listening. But I listen so intently that I'm actually like trying to make sure that I fully understand it. And so when I'm thinking or I'm fully engaged, I tend to do this. So there's a couple things. I can either just try to make sure my face doesn't look like that, or if I already have a good relationship with them and they trust me, I can say, hey, when I'm thinking and I'm focused, sometimes I do this. If you see this face, just know it's because I'm just laser focused on you and I'm trying to make sure that we end this conversation on the best note possible. Be watching nonverbal communication. As I said, no surprises if possible. We want to have this discussion in advance. And here's some of the things you need to make sure that you're setting it up, right? You need to, in advance of this conversation with this low performer, tell them when you're going to meet, what time is it going to be, what day, how long is it going to be, where are we going to meet? We want to also be talking to them about the agenda. We're going to talk about the fact that we're seeing some low performance and what we need to come up with a plan on how we're going to move it forward. We want to also know what questions they have just initially, right off the bat, like, hey, we're getting ready to have this conversation. Initially, do you have any questions? They might be totally shocked. They might not be surprised at all. We also want to make sure we know what outcome is expected. When we meet low performer, I want to make sure that when we walk away, that you have all the clarity that you need, that we've written out what the expectations are, that you're not leaving there with any questions. Clearly go through with them what's going to be covered and make sure that they know how to prepare. If you need them to be bringing any kind of data or anything with them, make sure that they know that and make sure that they can come to you with questions before that meeting if they have them. We also want to make sure we're asking the right questions. These are what, when, where, and how questions. We ask these questions and not why. The reason we don't ask a question starting with the word why is because it automatically puts people on the defensive. And we ask open-ended questions so we get more information. There's a difference between, do you like your job? Yes or no? Or what is it that you like the most about your job? Or what is it you like the least about your job? So when I ask a question starting with what, I get more information. If I just ask, do you like your job, which lends itself to a yes or a no. We don't want to ask those kinds of questions. We want to help them move forward. And the only way we can do that is if we're gaining clarity. If we are not helping them move forward, there is no point to even having the conversation in the first place. We want to reflect active listening. So if you're talking, they're not, which means you're not listening. If you're asking good questions, you need to make sure that you are actively listening as well. And finally, correction and accountability. We want to make sure we're resetting expectations. We want to get everything in writing. We want to make sure that we are letting them decide on the best next steps, not us. It is not our job to tell them what to do. It is our job to guide them so they know what to do fully. If they decide on the best next step, they're more likely to get it done. We want to schedule time within a week to check back in with them for that accountability piece. We need to make sure it is moving forward. If we're not holding them to progress, we have a bigger issue and their low performance. We may need to look at ourselves and find out if we're part of it. We want to hold them accountable to progress, just as we are going to hold ourselves accountable to enforcing consequences. So again, these are the 6 steps to challenging conversations with low performers. My name is Kristine Goebel. Thank you so much for joining me today. Please take a look at our website, follow us on social, and stay connected for additional resources.